Welcome to the Deep Dive Podcast. Becoming the dad God has called you to be takes a deeper dive. Dads too often stay at surface level. So let's dive deep into today's podcast.
Welcome back to the Dad Deep Dive Podcast. We are so excited that you have made it this far into the second season. And today, I'm going to tell you right now, put your seatbelt on. Because Eric Anderson is with us and Jeff sits down with him to talk about all things dad. It is a powerful episode, and Eric has a unique, incredible perspective that you're not going to walk away from unchanged. I promise you, today is a special day, and we're glad that you're here to join us.
All right, Eric Anderson. Man, second time around. I mean, we got cut off because of the weather and miscommunication, but you've been here several times, but not in this chair.
Well, I'm excited to be here today, Jeff. Excited to be with you. Excited to see what God would do with this podcast.
I am too, because your title, I love this title, It's Never Too Late. And we're going to get to that. But I'm always excited about thinking about the audience, the potential audience that's going to hear what you have to say, our conversation in the coming weeks. Maybe there's one thing that they're going to glean from what we say in this conversation, what you share today, that's going to change their lives. And, in Dad University, we talk about one man, one change, one generation. So, man, it's hard for me to ask you these questions because I know you, but looking at your bio, I learned a few things. But obviously, the audience doesn't know who you are.
Don't believe half of what you read.
Okay. All right. Well, I just kind of...
That's what I would tell the audience.
Well, it's good. I mean, it's good stuff. And obviously, our relationship was, through Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I've served on staff with FCA for 17 years. And, Jeff, I laugh every time I mention 17 years because my original plan was to serve for 5 years, take the exit ramp, hopefully get hired in a church to work within the walls of the church, and God had a sense of humor. So in the last 17 years, I've served as an area director in East Houston. That's from Humboldt, Tascasita, all the way up to Livingston, Jasper, if you're familiar with Houston, back to Anahuac. And today I'm still trying to figure how is that East Houston. So I served there for 6.5 years, and then I was promoted as the Houston director for 6.5 years. That's leading our staff, our boards, our volunteers throughout Houston and surrounding areas for 6.5 years. And I think about 5 years I've served in my new role as the Regional International Director of Texas FCA, mobilizing people and resources in Texas, connecting those people and resources to people and projects throughout Latin America North. So that covers from Mexico to Nicaragua. I'm learning Spanish. I'm probably not learning it fast enough, but I know about 1,000 words, and it's putting it into one paragraph, one sentence to continue to talk to our partners in Latin America North.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting. I have enjoyed watching the growth, on Facebook and and so forth. God is enlarging your territory. I mean, it's not the FCA, here and near. It's near and far.
Yes, yeah. So I would say, what I love about God is we have this term, He will blow your mind. I had no idea that what I'm doing today was part of God's plan for me. I remember about 10 years ago, I did sit in the backyard of our old home, and I was journaling. I love to write. And I wrote a list of 10 things that I wanted the Lord to do in my life. And number 3 was international ministry. Jeff, I had no idea what that looked like. I had no idea how I would integrate into international ministry. But about 10 years later, here I am. I've been to Dubai, spent time throughout all of Latin America North. God has allowed me to influence people, whether it's from Africa. Last week, in my home, my wife and I hosted 4 of our teammates from Ukraine, which was a very humbling experience. Knowing what's happening today.
Yeah, very timely.
Yeah, and then being able to be with our Ukrainian staff last week and also our staff from Russia, and to see that the centerpiece of their relationship, the focal point, is Jesus Christ. Although this war is happening with Russia and Ukraine, more Russia than Ukraine, you can see that our teammates in FCA, they have a centerpiece and a focus of Christ. So it was just great to see all that. But I had no idea that God would use me in this way. Last week, I drove back from San Antonio with our staff from Sweden. So here I am talking to our staff and learning about religion in their country. What does that mean? What does it look like? Hey, just because they are a Christian doesn't mean that they are truly Christians. So God has, I guess if we want to say, enlarged my territory, in addition to serving as a lead pastor of a church. Don't ask me how all this is working. I just know God is working it out. So for me, I try to live a very disciplined and structured lifestyle, to be a regional director within the ministry of FCA, but also to lead a local church, small church, but we're growing, and it's all about God's sovereignty.
Wow. Well, you may be the one person I know that's more busy than I am.
Maybe. Maybe.
I love it. We just got to keep moving.
Yes.
God keeps moving.
Yeah.
You know. So talk about your family.
Man, God has blessed me in the area of my family. So I have a beautiful wife. Oh, she is bad. So I have a beautiful wife, Cheryl Anderson. We've been married for 20 years, dated for about a year and a half, met her at church, and we have a blended family. So the story is my oldest daughter, Sakina Cooper, was in the youth ministry where I served as the youth pastor. So she would go home and tell her mom about this good-looking African-American guy every Sunday, brag about the teaching. I mean, I'm saying that. But she would go home and talk to her mother about me. And lo and behold, about 6 months into Sakina being a part of that class, I met her mom, Cheryl. I looked at her and said, man, she's nice looking, but I want to know about her heart. And we got to know each other. I studied her. And when I say studied, I really did for 6 months before we really started dating. And we started dating. Next thing you know, I fell in love with her. And we started this journey of having a blended family. So I had a bonus daughter, and I'm also a bonus father. And then 2 years later, we had Erin Anderson, my youngest daughter. So we have a 29-year-old, and now we have an 18-year-old, a freshman in college. And having a blended family has been a challenge, but I would take nothing back, no regrets. Because God trained me, I had to evolve, had to learn about a blended family. Society would say a stepdad. I had to really understand what that means. What did it look like for me? Wasn't perfect, made some mistakes. But now that she is older, 29, I'm looking back and sharing with other guys, hey, there are some things I learned as a stepfather, a bonus father, that hopefully I can share with you to bless you, that you don't make the same mistakes.
I absolutely love that term, bonus father. I've never seen that before until I read your pre-show notes. So, man, what a positive way to look at that, and it's an opportunity.
It is.
I mean, you have been given this unexpected opportunity.
Yes.
And you have a choice.
Yes.
And you've made the most of that. Yes. Opportunity.
Yeah. And I think I could share this. I think my daughter will be okay with this, my wife, because my desire is always to minister to dads, to blended families, and to families in general. So one of the challenges that we experience as a blended family, and I think you know this, Jeff, is that my oldest daughter went through a lot of trauma, from 7 probably until last year. She's been in a lot of counseling. And I say this in all due respect to her biological father. He wasn't actively present in her life. And I say that with all due respect. So here I am becoming this step-up father or the bonus father. And my daughter really wanted a relationship with her dad. There were times that I would show up to a 7th grade game and my daughter would look in the stands and I would be like, hey, I'm right here. She wasn't looking for me. She was looking for a biological father who promised to be there. And he no-showed her, even on graduation. Her senior year, he said he would be there. He didn't show up. He had a lot of excuses. So not only did I have to navigate that type of trauma, but I also want to be honest, transparent. My daughter was also sexually abused. Well, I didn't know that coming into the marriage. My wife didn't know that. We found out my daughter's 10th grade year. The counselor called me. I went up to a high school in the local area. She broke the news to me. I was full of emotions, started crying. I had to call my wife and say, sweetheart, would you come home and break the news to my wife? So now you have the trauma of a broken relationship with a biological father, the trauma of being sexually abused at an early age by family members. She didn't have any trust in men.
Right.
And now I walk in as this bonus father or this step-up father, and she's like, well, who are you?
Right.
I know you're Pastor Anderson at the church, but why are you here? Today is Monday. You were here Sunday. You were here last Saturday. I wasn't going anywhere. So there were some mistakes I made in terms of allowing the relationship to happen naturally. You know, I was raised old school where your dad just popped you upside the head. Well, I didn't do any of that, but I had some old school methodologies that I needed to change for a different situation. And those kind of things that I learned is the trauma that some of our children face that we just don't know about.
Right.
And we don't learn until they're adults. And we're looking back saying, man, I wish I would have known that. There are a few things that I would have done differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, which I think all of us would say that.
Yeah.
You know, we just don't know what we don't know sometimes.
That's right.
But and that's why, you know, why we're here, why we're sitting at this table, Eric, is because of the passion we both have for the role of the dad and the importance of the dad, that daily act of devotion. And because we know that we've encountered through FCA, as an educator, as a former coach and teacher, principal, pastor, the kids have come through our doors that that are lacking what they need from a father, whether it's a father figure or their biological father. They every child needs a man. And you know, I love what FCA does because the influence that coaches have is monumental.
Yes.
I mean, the coaches in my life were such, you know, some of the most influential people in my life. But the way it should be is the first coach in every kid's life should be dad. Should be dad.
Should be.
That's right. Should be dad.
Yes.
Coach.
Yes.
And sometimes we can't control the order.
Right. Right.
So what were some of those things that you the methodology, so to speak, that you had to tweak?
So I'm very straightforward. That's how I grew up. My mother passed about a year ago, and my mom is just very direct, or she was very direct. Too direct at times. She was the person that if she thought it, she spoke it. She said it. Well, that's great. At least I knew where I stood with Mom. I didn't have to guess what she was thinking. So I have some of that mentality, but I would say I'm probably a little bit more tactful in how I communicate. But with a younger generation of children, they are more sensitive than we are. And I'm realizing that. Again, I want to say this with all due respect. Wiser in some areas, intelligent in some areas, but I think weak in other areas, whether it's emotionally, sometimes physically. So when it came to how I communicated with my daughter, I had to change my approach and my tone. I could be direct, but it's how I communicate it. And I learned to communicate it in a different way to both of my daughters. My oldest daughter, I could be very straightforward, but drop the voice. My youngest daughter, very low, not as direct. I would hurt her feelings. And Jeff, it would be the same thing that I'm communicating to both daughters. I just had to communicate it in different ways. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's no difference than how a coach would communicate to his team, to his personnel, to his staff. He may say the same thing to his team, to his players, to his coaches, but he has to communicate it in different ways to different people.
Yeah.
Same thing as a father.
It's a relationship.
Yeah, relationship. Yeah.
And one word comes to my mind is just acknowledgement. Acknowledgement. As you self-reflect, it takes acknowledgement or acknowledging that I need to do something different.
Yes. But I also think it takes for you to lay your ego and your pride aside and allow your children and your wife to speak into your blind spots. And that's one of the things I did. We would have Sunday night sessions with the family, shut everything down. And one time, both of my daughters said, "Dad, we love you. You are amazing. You serve people. You do this. We watch you. Dad, man, your tone is so strong with us." And I'm thinking, what?
Yeah.
Like, if you was raised the way I was raised with my parents,
You don't have any idea.
they would break you, right? You had no idea. I'm old school. But they helped me see some blind spots. Mm-hmm. And so did my wife. So it was me saying, okay, I'm going to listen. I'm going to be direct, but I'm going to have some sympathy, some standards, but I need to communicate according to your personality.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized with my daughters. I have no sons, all women in my house. Or as we were growing up, 3 women. I was outvoted on everything. But I had to learn how to communicate to them according to their personality in the way that they would receive what I was communicating.
And that's humility.
Yeah.
And I read a statement somewhere recently. It said, what we love shapes our humility. Mm. And so you love.
That's good.
So you love.
Yeah.
I know it hit me. It's in a book called Humilitas.
Okay.
Dixon I can't remember his first name right now. John Dixon. Anyway, but it's Humilitas, mm-hmm. and that you read it's that one thing that you read the whole book and you hear that one statement. What you love shapes your humility, yeah. And so that's so taking a inventory of what I love, mm-hmm. and you obviously you love your girls.
Oh. Without a doubt.
Right.
Yes.
And so the willingness is, even though we have that pride and that, that's ingrained, sometimes stubbornness, yeah. We have to be vulnerable. Yeah. We have to be sometimes transparent. And so that's hard.
It's not easy. I would tell people it is not easy being coached up on your weaknesses or in your blind areas. Recently, my wife said, "Oh, I love you." Again, she's bragging. My chest is just poking out. Baby, I watch you at FCA events. You work the room. You speak to everybody. You love on people. You make them feel valued. I watch you at church. I watch how you lead. I watch you doing the events. Man, you're loving on people. You're praying for people. And Jeff, my chest just swelling. But she turned the corner. She said, "I wish that I had that same man at home sometimes." Yes, I went from just being this big, broad-chested guy to
yeah.
But she said what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
And what she was saying was, hey, you are a great provider. You're a great leader. You're a great husband. But there are some areas that I need to speak into so that you can be better.
That's convicting.
Yes.
I want to go back to something you said that I was thinking about you, mm-hmm. that you are, I think you are, when you said I watch people, mm-hmm. like you studied your mm-hmm. wife when you were courting her. Mm-hmm. I've never thought about that before, but if someone asked me about Eric Anderson, I would say he's an observer. You do observe people. I feel that. I feel that, and it's not judging, but it's observing, and I can feel that from you. Yeah. But like you're going to check me out. I mean, you're going to check whoever you hang with, which is not having your guard up, but it is, knowing who I'm going to hang with, who I'm going to associate with, who is this person across the table. Yes. So I guess I say that because I must have passed the test because you're here,
I'm laughing because I've heard that my entire life, even as a kid. And I guess that's just part of my personality. I just like to watch people, study people, their mm-hmm. habits. I'm constantly learning. I have a good friend, Ricky Hernandez. We worked at the YMCA for 12 years together. And recently he said, "Hey, man, do you still have your book of notes?" And I was like, "What notes?" He said, "Man, in every meeting, you were always writing. You were detailed." And I said, "Oh, I have new books." And that's just part of who I am. Not that I'm judging people. I like to learn. I like to evaluate. I like to assess. So I'm always writing, always thinking, looking at the best and a leader, the worst, what I need to learn from. And it's just trying to be in the seat of always evolving and learning. So I think that's how I would describe myself.
Right. I think that I would validate that statement. Absolutely. Because you, as much as you have to give, mm-hmm. you have also taken from other people. I see you. You're not. I think one of the reasons people do resonate to you is because you don't have the persona that you have it all. That you have it all.
Whew, I hope I don't.
You're confident. You're
Yes,
strong, and we
yes.
need to be. But we also need to be. I don't have all the answers.
No.
And I want our listeners to know that when they listen to our different podcasts, we're just trying to figure this thing out too.
Exactly.
And we just hope that we learn from our experiences and our mistakes, and we share those. So maybe our listeners don't go down that same path.
Yeah, I wish somebody had wrote a book on blended families, and I'm going back to that because that's who I am. That's who God used me to navigate tough waters with, was a blended family. And there were so many things that I didn't know that I know now. And looking back, I want to be able to take all that I gleaned, all that I learned, how I changed, how I evolved my thinking, even as a parent and a dad, to say, hey, you may have a blended family. You may be the bonus dad or the step up dad, but guess what? If you love, lead, serve, listen, lament your son or daughter well, they'll follow your leadership. And there's nothing that they won't do to show you that they love you. And those are some of the things I learned.
I'll give you one other L word.
I got like 10 more, but give me
Legitimate.
one. Legitimate. I like that.
Because all of that legitimizes you in the eyes of your kids.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're missing in this world today is that we don't see others sometimes in our eyes as legitimate. Yes. So we don't even have a conversation. Yeah. So we miss the boat completely. Yes. And so many times. So anyway, so you talk about your dad, and you said your dad's always been in your life.
Yes.
Man, you're so blessed. And so how has dad impacted you over the years?
Wow, man, that's so much I can say there. Let me start by saying this. I had knee replacement. So this morning I'm headed to physical therapy. I get there, they're running behind. So I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I jump on Facebook. Everybody loves Facebook. And they had this video on the screen with a 12-year-old kid who hadn't seen his dad because his dad's been in prison for 12 years. So all of a sudden the dad shows up at the middle school. He's hiding. The kid comes out. And he's like, who is that? And mom said, that's your dad. And he runs over to the dad and hugs him. Like, I don't know what that's like because I've always had my dad in my life. Just things that I can remember distinctly. My dad being in my football games. My dad talking to my coaches for me. My dad disciplining me. Matter of fact, 7th grade, first game, A-team, Creekwood Middle School. I was running late to the bus. I got on the bus, headed to the game, and I said something I shouldn't have said. Bad word. Coach is right there, and coach said, I'm going to tell your dad. Jeff, when you said, I'm going to tell your dad, hey, it's over. And I remember my dad showing up at that game, and I'm trying to make a layup in warm-ups, and I'm looking over, and coach is talking to my dad. And the whole time during the game, my dad's just sitting there looking at me like, I can't wait for you to get home. I had the worst game in my life. Why? Because my dad was stern. He was a disciplinary. 49, my dad's been in ministry 52 years. I was raised in a church. I was on the drug ministry. I was drugged to church. I was there all day Sunday, come back Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes Saturday. So I was raised in a Christian home. I could walk into my dad's room. He had a rule, knock on the door before you walked in. Well, there was times I would just walk in, open the door, and I could still see my dad today on the left side of the bed praying. And I would just sit there and listen. There was times when I was struggling in my walk, and I went to my dad, and he would pray with me. So my dad taught me what it meant to be a Christian man, how to trust Jesus in hard times. He taught me character. He taught me integrity. He taught me when you fail, you get back up. He taught never make excuses. On Saturday mornings, this is old school, he would wake us up. When his feet hit the floor, we had to be up. And it would be 6 a.m. We're going to cut the grass, take out the trash, and change the oil. I don't even change the oil anymore We had to do all of that. My dad was very methodical. Those are things that I still value today. Jeff, you probably wouldn't believe this. I still make up my bed almost every day because my dad wouldn't let us leave the house without our beds being made. And my wife, one of our biggest disagreements would be she would say, "You're coming back to get into bed." I say, "Yeah, but make it up. Let's make it up," because I was trained that way.
Yeah.
Now my dad has dementia. He has prostate cancer. He's grieving the transition of my mom to be with Jesus. They were together 52 years. My dad is not the same man. He's frail, fragile. He's not there mentally. So I've taken over the responsibilities as the caregiver. I mean, I care for my mom up until the time she passed away. So not only did I shepherd, love, serve my mother, I became the caregiver, not the son. I'm still doing the same thing for my dad now. So now I have a different value of what dad meant because if I can be honest, there are times I get angry. And I think I get angry simply because my dad is not the man he used to be. And I wish I had that dad back. But if I'm getting older, my dad is getting older.
Yep.
If my body is failing and breaking down, my dad's 75.
Yeah.
His body's going to fail and break down. So I gave you a lot there. But my dad is everything.
Yeah.
And I want to do a better job of telling him that because I don't know how much time I have left.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the Lord could call me home first. Chances are he's going to pass first. But each day I have with him, it is a blessing, even though it's hard to watch him not remember things. Matter of fact, my birthday was February 22nd last week. He called me this past Monday, said, "Hey, happy birthday." And I said, "What?" He said, "Happy birthday. Today is February 28th. And I probably shouldn't even say anything. I said, "Dad, it was last week." "Oh, it was?" I said, "No big deal. Thank you." Those are things that, man, the young dad, Jeff Anderson, he was on top of.
Yeah.
Now, the frail, fragile, older father, I just use F's. I don't know why. Maybe because I was trained in the Baptist church. But that's not the same man.
Yeah.
But I remember the principles that he taught me as a kid growing up in his home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were mirrored well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to the last 4 or 5 years of my dad's life. I'm kind of like you. I don't think I took advantage of the opportunities to spend as much time as I could with him. Number one, my mother was still alive, so she was the primary caretaker. So I had that excuse. Second of all, he wasn't. I already told myself that it's not really my dad. Because it's not, because like you said, he's not. He's a different person. You know, he sometimes he was with me and sometimes he wasn't, and so I don't know if I just didn't want to see him that way.
Yeah.
So even though he was only 6 houses away, I saw him quite a bit. But as looking back, now that he's gone, I could have spent even more time.
Right.
So I would just encourage you. That you're, whatever condition he's in, you're still blessed to have him.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's a reminder for me also to make sure that I spend quality time with my girls.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I wish I had more from my dad was he was a hard worker. He drove trucks. So there are 2 things that he taught us: work and worship. Right? Work hard, but make sure you're in church on Wednesday nights, back in the days, and Sunday mornings. That's worship. But it was rare I saw my dad on vacations with us. And for us, my mother would always take us to vacations or on vacations. And I missed that part. So for me, I try to make sure I incorporate that with my girls, with our family. My girls have been to the Dominican Republic. They've been to other countries. Maybe we make more in terms of income than my parents did at that time. But we want to make sure our girls experience life. And it's not sending them on a trip. Yeah. We're going with them. We're doing life together. And I think at the end of my life, because one day I will pass, hopefully that's some of the things they will remember. Right. My dad was present.
Right.
My dad was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he impacted me up close and personal.
Yeah. Yeah, as we do get older, we start calculating forward.
Yes.
How many more years do I have to make an influence? And we don't when we're in our 40s, early 40s or 30s or 20s and we're young parents, we're just in the midst of it sometimes and we just were thinking about today.
Yep.
And but I said this a couple episodes ago, and it was like an epiphany on the air. Was I didn't realize what I missed until I became a grandfather.
Oh, wow.
So don't wait until you become a grandpa to realize what you missed. Because now I have more time. Now it's not that I'm not busy, but I know what my wife did when my babies were 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I was coaching and teaching, and I was not home all the time.
Right.
And so now I have a little bit, because I have this time, I have a newfound, even a greater appreciation for what my wife did, but I also realize what I missed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but as the title goes, it's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late.
So what? Talk about that.
You said a lot with your last statement. As a grandfather, you realized, man, I missed some key elements of being a father, and God still can use that and redeem that. So I would say to any father, it's never too late. Maybe you were not there the first 10 years of your son or your daughter's life, but if God gives you another 20, you can redeem that time to invest in them, to impact them, to influence, inspire them in areas where maybe you had not been inspired, or maybe somebody didn't impact you. So I always try to tell men, hey, my daughter and my son, they don't want anything to do with me. How do you know? Have you slowed down long enough to try to build a relationship with them despite the flaws of the past, despite the complexities of the past? Because if God is working in that, and he's working on your heart and your son or daughter's heart, there's some forgiveness that can happen. And then God can reconcile that relationship and bring you back together, and you celebrate the time that you have with one another. And I think far too often we spend too much time thinking about the past. The past is the past. I think it was Lion King. There we go. One of my favorite movies. Rafiki, he's in the jungle. He has his staff, and the Lion King is now, Simba is now older, and he's worried about all the stuff he should have done when his dad was there. And Rafiki takes his staff, boom, hits him in the head. And Simba said, why did you do that? And he said, it doesn't matter. It's in the past. I've never forgotten that line from that movie.
Yeah.
We can redeem today. It's never too late if we move forward from the past. Simba's head was hurting, but he finally realized it was time to go back to the Pride Land because he was the king, and it didn't matter what he did in the past. To any dad, you're a king. Didn't matter what you done in the past. That God still has you in a valuable position to impact your son, your daughter, or your grandkids.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
Yeah, don't you think that some of the reasons why some of our dads choose that have walked, continue to choose to stay away is because they feel like they've gone too far.
Yes, for sure.
Like they maybe they've had a change in their life, but they still don't feel worthy. And because they've had that change in their life, now they feel the guilt, of what they did, and they don't think, like you said, how do the kids know they don't want to be with you unless you extend, unless you are willing, intentional, and ask for forgiveness,
right,
and reconciliation. And Dad University, we who should come. We talk about who should be there. Well, basically, if you're a man, you should be there, right, in whatever life stage you're in. If you're gonna been there, done that, Dad, or raising girls or raising boys, or a granddad or a dad who needs reconciliation.
Yeah.
And so the message, I hope that the men are here today, if there are men listening that feel like they've gone too far, Eric, is that, as you say, it's not too late.
Yes, yes. So there's a road that leads back to that relationship. So again, I can only speak about me and what I've gone through. So there was a fracture in my relationship with my oldest daughter, my bonus daughter. And it was due to the trauma, due to some of my mistakes, due to some of her rebellion, due to some of the negative seeds that were placed in her mind as a young kid by extended relatives. That's all I would say there. So it was hard. And there was a point where my oldest daughter went to college. She did not succeed at a particular university. And I just said, I'm not paying for school. I refused to. You had a full scholarship to one university. You quit volleyball. You transferred to another. I'm not paying. And that was about a 2-year period where there was just some very hard places for my wife and I. Sometimes we didn't even hear from my daughter. Fast forward to now, we made amends. Recognizing the trauma, recognizing there was some fault on both ends, some things I could have done better in terms of listening, understanding, some things that she took personal because she's never been a parent. She didn't know what it meant to be a parent and why we would say certain things. But today, our relationship is stronger than it's ever been, Jeff. When I say ever, from 8 years old, for me being the youth pastor, and she's in the class, she's 29 now. God redeemed all of that. He used all of that to strengthen our relationship. Now we laugh. She called me this morning. I'm on the table. The physical therapist, is bending my knee. I picked up the phone in the midst of all that pain. I said, hey, they're hurting my knee. I'll call you back. Okay, Dad, I was calling to check on you. God's redeeming all of that. So it's never too late.
Wow. Well, Eric, I am so privileged, or have been so privileged to be your brother, to witness this. And here, I've heard this parts of your story. Every time I hear you talk about it, I hear a little bit more, and I can feel your passion and your determination and your love for your ladies, for your women, for your girls. And so what would be, as we wrap this up today, what would be, as we talk about this role of you being a bonus dad or a step-up dad or just a dad, period, what would be some final words that you would say to listeners that we have today?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is Psalm 127. And there's a portion in that particular psalm that the psalmist says, children are a gift from the Lord. And as a dad, you have to realize that your children, be it biological or through a bonus situation, they are a gift. And we have to steward that gift well. And my passion has been never to be perfect, but to steward the gift or the gifts that God has given me in terms of Sakina Cooper and Aaron Anderson, my daughters, well. So I would say, as a dad, look at your children as a gift from Jesus, right? He gives them to you to steward them well and do the best that you can. 2, when you make mistakes, forgive yourself. I've had to forgive myself for countless mistakes, and then I own them. Not only did I forgive myself, but I'm not so egotistical that I can't come to my girls and ask for forgiveness. My parents, old school generation, they were taught and they believe, hey, if you make a mistake, you don't have to tell your children you made a mistake. My wife and I have listened to that in their generation, but we have decided to do something different. So stewardship, understand that you are not, that you are flawed, own it, but then turning around and asking for forgiveness. And then I think the 4th thing I would say is recognize that your time is limited. We're not here for eternity. Now, we will spend somewhere, I don't know, it's your choice, for eternity, but it's not on earth. So since I know it's not on this particular planet, man, my life is short. And I want to invest as much time in my sons and my daughters. Let me take it a step further. Kids at the church, kids on the field, kids in the locker room.
Yeah.
I want to invest as much as I can in them because they are the next generation of leaders. They're our next presidents, governors, senators, you name it, coaches.
Yeah.
Hey, let me influence them as best as I can by being who God made me to be. I'm going to be the best Eric Anderson that I can be. I can't be Jeff. I don't even look like you. I mean, we're different colors and shades, so I can't even be like you. I can take some of the best of Jeff, integrate and incorporate into my life, and use it to be a better dad. So those are a few things that I would say is that, man, forgive yourself, Dad. It's not too late. Maybe you're in prison, you're just getting out, and you're seeing your son or your daughter for the first time. Praise the Lord. Be the best that you can be. Maybe you've gone through a divorce, and it was hard. My wife went through a divorce early on as 18-year-old, and she had to work 2 and 3 jobs. And I've always told my oldest daughter, do the best you can in reconciling your relationship with your dad. If it wasn't for your dad, you wouldn't be here.
That's right. That's right.
Honor him. You may not like some of the things that he's doing, but honor him. Why? Because our time is limited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I think about what if, if we thought about every conversation we had might be our last one, would we have a different conversation?
Yeah.
Would that be a different conversation? And that we just continue to acknowledge that every day is a gift.
Yeah.
And
I have this image in my head and I can't shake it. So as I said previously, I hosted 4 of our teammates from Ukraine last week. So they stayed in my home Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I was with them for about 8 days after that. But at the conference, Yvonne, I would watch him walk out the conference and he would go into this corner with his wife. He's calling his kids who are back in Ukraine. And he's crying, talking to his kids. And his wife is there with him crying. They are here in the U.S. His 2 kids, son and daughter, with his mother-in-law, are back in, I hope I say it right, Kyiv, the capital, and not too far from their home, bombings. He can't do anything. He's trying to get them out, but he can't. He's here in the U.S. for ministry purposes, but his kids are back home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, we live in a great country.
Right.
A flawed country.
Right.
Because we're flawed people.
Right.
But man, oh my God, I take so much for granted as a dad.
We do.
Because I can drive right up to Huntsville, Texas, Sam Houston State, knock on my daughter's door. Hey, what are you doing? Come out of there. He can't get back home right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't shake that image.
Yeah.
So I got to do the best with the time that God's given me with my girls, with my wife, and then those who God has brought into my sphere of influence. Hey, maybe I'm a mentor. That's a dad. And influence and invest in children for the next generation.
Well, Eric, thank you for being here today.
No, thank you for allowing me to come to Jeff's table.
Hey, it's God's table.
Amen.
Thank you for being the bonus dad and the step up dad and the husband and and the brother that you are and the influence that you have every day on your congregation and the people that cross your path. I know you're a blessing. You've been a blessing to me, and I love you.
Oh, love you too, brother. And it's reciprocal. Like, I watch you, and you're right. I do study people. So I got to do a better job of kind of being incognito when I'm studying people. But I've watched your consistency, even when you wanted to connect with FCA at a deeper level. That's what I'm trying to say. I've watched your consistency over the years, and I value that. So that's one thing I've picked up from you is consistency. If there's a picture of Jeff, next to that would be the word consistency. And I try to glean that from every man that God is using, whether it's in a major way, a major platform, or a smaller way and a lesser platform. We can learn from other men. So I'll close with that. Dads, learn from other dads. Pick up what they're doing well. Emulate that in your own home. Try to bring that into your own lifestyle. And whatever you see that's bad, Just throw it to the side. It's almost like seminary. So I need to finish my master's at DTS, 40 hours away. There was an elderly church mother at our former church, and she found out I was going to seminary. And she said, "Baby, eat the meat and spit the bones out." And I was like, "What?" She said, "Eat the meat and spit the bones out." That philosophy can work for dads, watching other dads. I think what she was trying to say is take the best from them.
That's right.
And what's not good, spit it out.
Yeah, don't get distracted.
Yeah, don't get distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me today.